Evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a terrific show planned for you today. Don't forget to stay tuned for Warriors Talk, 6 p.m. with my girl, Rochelle. Tonight, my guest is no stranger to Intellectual Radio family, and she had a host with the mostest called Monday Night Mingle.
We
Right?
did. We had Monday Night Mingle Radio here years ago. Oh my goodness, had to have been 2011 or something. Is that 12, 13 years ago? Yeah, maybe
You're
13.
aging yourself,
I know, I know, I know. I'm okay with being 57. The number of people who are not making it to 57, I'm okay with being 57. But I am so excited to be back here.
It's the one and only Gina Lamar Evans, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You can just say Gina Lamar, and then I'm waiting for the crowd to go crazy. Hello, sound guy. Nothing. I get nothing around. here. I'm Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect. Now, I am super excited to be here. So when you gave me the call the other day and say, hey, Gina, can you come on Monday? I was like, enough stuff, bunch of stuff going on, but absolutely for you, Roman, you're worth it. The Drive at 5.
No, stop sucking
Come
up to
on.
the
You
host.
already know. You already know. I promise you. I said yes, only to you. And to sit in that traffic coming to the western suburbs, knowing I'm a South Sider. Yeah, nothing but love for you, Roman. Nothing but love for you.
So tell us what's been going on with you. I mean, let's get the titles correct here. Former intellectualradio.com host. You're an
Yes.
HIV specialist.
Yes.
And what else been going on
I'm a
with
case
Gina Lamar?
manager at heart, and I'm a patient advocate at heart, right? So my titles are HIV specialist because I do training for people living with HIV and for providers who, doctors and nurses who provide services, right? Who care for people living with HIV. So that title, has come over the years that I do that. I've trained for MATEC, the Midwest AIDS Training and Education Center. And last year, this time, I was on a U.S. tour. Okay, it was a 5-city tour, but you couldn't tell me nothing. I felt like a rapper for the Academy of HIV Medicine because I was going from town to town talking about sex. So we talked about linkage to care, retention and care, and PrEP last year. So I went around. The Academy of HIV Medicine sent me to like 6 different cities to do these talks, right? So my tagline is I talk about sex for a living because it's the main mode of transmission for HIV. It continues to be, right? We figured it out in perinatal transmission. We figured it out in IV drug usage. Even IV drug users know go get you some clean needles and you don't have to contract and or spread HIV. Moms, when they're before they go into labor, when they're getting their prenatal care, they get tested in first and third trimester. So then when you go into labor, we know if we don't have a test on file.
Why first and third?
Well, let me just say it this way. Once you get pregnant, unless it's like within a really short time frame, you can't get pregnant again because that's how we have fraternal twins, right? That's 2 separate eggs that have gotten fertilized.
Well, a lot of people say you cannot get pregnant again
when you're pregnant,
and that's false.
I was especially only in that very short window.
You know how many women say that to men, and they can cheat. It's mind-boggling.
But you really can't get pregnant again once that baby has started growing, right? So that's how you have fraternal twins. Sometimes the egg splits, you have identical, right? Or you have 2 separate eggs that are fertilized. But I really want to have an OBGYN talk that part. I'm just talking about why we test in first and third trimester. Because once you're pregnant, you can't get pregnant again. So you have more unprotected sex. And if you are not having protected sex or sex with only one person, you tend to have, you test negative in your first trimester. And then at the point of delivery, you're positive. So you could have actually gotten pregnant, or you actually could have gotten infected during that first act of sex.
But it's not usually the person who impregnated you.
No, it is. It could be easily. It could easily be the person who impregnated you, right? Because it takes about 12 weeks for you to find out you're pregnant as women, right? It takes us about 12 weeks before it shows up. Now, everybody tries to tell you, we've got a test that can tell you in 2 weeks, right? That's the EPT, the early pregnancy test. And I often say to people the same way with HIV testing, right? If I test you today and you're positive, you didn't get positive. Hey Gina, that's why my company, that's why it's Monday. My brand is Monday Night Mingle, because most people get tested on Mondays. Somebody said, you need to do this on Thursdays. Nobody's going to listen to me on a Thursday because they don't plan on going out and waking up with somebody they don't know, right? So once they do, and or a condom breaks, and or they have a great night, and you're like, what's the country music song? I woke up, I don't even know my last name. They in Vegas having a great time, and don't even know their last name. So those types of things happen. So we get called on a Monday, like, hey, where can I get tested? And so I try to tell people, if you test positive on today, you did not contract HIV. You spread it. You possibly spread it because we don't have a test. Like if you had sex with somebody last Thursday on Thanksgiving, right? There's nothing to show. Their antibodies aren't going to show in your body in these 4 days. So if you do test positive, you possibly spread HIV, not contracted it. So that's why in the first trimester, we could have had sex and I could have gotten pregnant last Thursday. HIV is not going to show up in it, right? In the next 12 weeks, a baby will show up, and then so will HIV. HIV will show up really and truly in 26 days, right? In 30 days for sure. So if we had sex December 1st, we'll stick with World AIDS Day. By January 1st, I can tell you if you're exposed to HIV, and then some pregnancy tests can tell you whether or not you got pregnant when on that December 1st date. So we recognize that, oh, there's a new exposure, oh, you're pregnant. That's how we found out with lots of Black women. So that's why I want to make sure that we talk about PrEP, right? The pre-exposure prophylaxis for Black women, or for women, period, and people, period, to stop you from contracting HIV. But that's why I do it on Mondays, because that's the most calls that come in, or people go looking up where to get tested. Did they catch something? And I tell people, if I catch you on a Monday, you did not catch gonorrhea this weekend. You did not catch HIV this weekend. You possibly spread it. I can't say it for sure, but we still have to now find the partners you had sex with this weekend and get them tested. And then we have to test them again in 30 days because there's a window, right? There's an incubation period, same with pregnancy. And so I liken lots of it to pregnancy um, in many ways, right? I don't have a cure for HIV. And once I have a baby, I have a baby forever, possibly until death, right? But even with death, I have a child who died, right? So pregnancy is forever. If you keep the child, HIV is forever, right? And even if you don't keep the child, pregnancy is forever. So when you go to the doctor, they say, how many children? 0. How many pregnancies? 2. So you could have aborted, you could have given up for adoption, or you could have miscarried, right? So those are the things that I say they're just alike a lot of times. So that's why we test in first and third trimester. And that's why here we are 30 years later. We did not a documentary, we're talking about a documentary last night because yesterday was World AIDS Day. And we were talking about, here we are still saying the same thing 30 years later.
And what's that?
You have to protect yourself. You need to know your status. And you need to know your partner's status. And sometimes people think it's a difficult time. It's a difficult question to ask my partner, hey, can you use a condom? And then can we, get tested? So people don't, I teach my whole team. And if you ever catch anybody on my team saying, get an HIV test, you let me know immediately, because people will say, oh no, I don't need an HIV test. Whenever I'm testing at Black Women's Expo and I say, hey, come on up, get tested. Oh, honey, I'm married. I say, so is Cookie Johnson. Guess whose husband came home with HIV? Magic Johnson, right? So she was married. She was, a mother and faithful to all that we know, or whatever, right? I don't know all their business, but I do know that her husband was exposed to HIV, and having sex with her exposed her, right? So that you have an exposure to HIV. So we have all of those things that keep this conversation going. Here we are 30 years later. Know your own status, know your partner's status. So many people want to ask me, well, what's Roman's status? Right? And people want to ask you, what's Gina's status, right? And I always tell people, before I discuss Gina or Roman's status, Let's talk. No, I'm kidding. I would say, know your own status. And so that's why I tell people update your status, because I love it when people say, girl, I got pregnant. I got tested when I was pregnant. I said, girl, your child is 27. If you bring up being pregnant, being tested while you were pregnant and your kid is 27, I'm gonna fist fight you again, right? So those are the types of things that keep me talking about sex, because it continues to be the main mode of transmission. We figured out how to push meds to moms when they're pregnant so the baby is born negative. If we miss you during your pregnancy, if you don't get any prenatal care because you've had 5 kids, you already know how this is going to go, and you can just wait until you have the baby, right? We do a test during the delivery. If you or the baby pop positive, we can push meds to the baby. The law in Illinois says that we can push meds to the baby, because if you say, I don't want an HIV test, I fight for women's rights. So you don't have to test me. But I also fight is for those children's rights. So what you can't do, ma'am, is deliver a positive baby in the state of Illinois, because if we don't know your status, we're testing that baby. That baby, if that baby pops positive, we are definitely pushing meds to save that baby and make that baby seroconvert. It's called seroconversion, right? And make that baby seroconvert from positive to negative. And we can do that now with medication.
Since the advancement
Mm-hmm.
of medicine,
Yes.
a lot of people are lackadaisical when it
Yes.
comes to
Yes. HIV.
protecting themselves in HIV. Break it down to us statistically
Okay.
that in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
Black women, Black men are still up there
The
more
highest.
so
The highest.
than any other race.
The highest.
How
Yes.
could that be?
So when you say the very first part of what you just said,
Lackadaisical.
that they really are, right? So I said to someone recently, we were at a funeral for another friend, one of my frat brothers was in town, and I saw I'm an HIV specialist, and he goes, is that still a thing? And I love it. He was so serious about it. Is that still a thing? Right? You don't hear about it anymore. And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad you feel that way. In case you ever test positive, you won't be stressed about it." Whoa, hold up! I didn't say that. Calm down. Why would you say that to me? I said, because you just took someone's HIV status and minimized it. You saw, is that still a thing? It's not even a big deal. You just take your meds, just like diabetes, right? So that then you do the same thing. Yeah, but I don't want you saying that on me. I said, well, so do people living with HIV or people vulnerable to HIV. HIV. They don't want to hear that either, right? So you're absolutely right. We have made advances in medicine. We were talking about this last night, but no advancements in stigma. Stigma is still real. I say it all the time. If I get breast cancer, you all say poor Gina. If I get HIV, you say promiscuous Gina. And I say, no, I was just having sex with my husband. He happened to be Magic Johnson, or a man like Magic Johnson who was HIV positive and spread the virus to me, right? So it doesn't mean that I'm having sex with lots of different people. I just am having sex with someone unprotected that is an exposure. I love to tell this story when any of my girlfriends, but I do clearly remember there's one particular instance where, but others have happened, in different ways. But my girlfriend said, we think something popped up with her husband, maybe messing around. And I said, hey, put him on condom duty, for 30 days. You all both update your status and, go from there. I'm not going to ask my husband to wear a condom. I said, but you can ask me to come watch your kids at 2:30 in the morning while you go look for them? Like, you're not going to ask your husband to wear a condom when you think he's cheating because he stayed out all night, right? But you can ask me.
But 2 plus 2 equals 4.
In my head,
You know,
in my math, right? But even in my own math, and I'm never judging, because there is
sometimes you need to judge.
Well-
And just let me
yeah,
interrupt here.
please.
Sometimes you need to judge. What's been going on in the Black community, society-wise,
Mm-hmm.
is nothing but
Mm-hmm.
sex, 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 and sex. No
Just not
matter
in my
how,
life. Good
n-
Lord, I wish it were. But go ahead.
but however you look at it, but there is, I need to protect myself.
Hmm.
COVID, remember I told you about statistics.
Yes.
COVID has brought that number up to new heights in the Black community. And a lot of people say, why did that happen? How did that happen? Your thoughts of the COVID situation and they're having
And a
unprotected,
direct correlation
yeah,
to HIV. Well, one of the things when I'm giving HIV stats for the last few years, right? I always say we don't really know those numbers because we know since 2020, March of 2020, all of our resources went immediately to COVID, right? Everything went to COVID. Like they pulled everybody from the health department, from everything else to COVID. So when we say we have numbers, right? Those numbers could be not so correct because we were really focusing on COVID while HIV was over here climbing. It raised rates because you were sheltering in place, right? But that place could have been where you where HIV was, right? And so lots of people didn't have any money, didn't have anything to do. They were home and they possibly were having more sex, right? It just happens that way with people. Um, you look at some marriages, right? And you say, "Well, how are they not having sex? Oh, they're busy chasing their careers. They're working, they're raising children, they're on PTA, they're, exercising and jogging. So sex kind of falls by the wayside, right? But when you're kind of sitting around doing nothing, you have more sex. Kind of some of the things happen that way,
that's
right?
how Black senior citizens up there with HIV and AIDS.
No, not at all.
Not at
So
all?
you have to understand
Don't they have
you have
STDs?
yes, but no, you have to understand two things.
Okay.
You have to understand prevalence versus incidence. Incidents in the public health world are new cases, right? So it's the first time I'm catching, or not the first time, but a new diagnosis of me catching something, right? So prevalence is I've been living with it. We've made such advances in medicine that people with HIV are now seniors. They're now 60, right? And they move into a senior building. But the stats just show that we have 10 people in this building out of this 100 people who now have HIV. They didn't contract the HIV in that building. They they grew old and qualified for senior housing because they got infected at 25 or 35, lived for 20 years. They're now 55. They qualify for senior housing and now they live in there. But if you're looking at stats and with numbers, those are people who have been living with HIV.
Now they're getting Viagra pills and messing with Miss
Baby.
Thompson.
So once again, everybody wants to blame the woman. It's really hard for
I'm not
me.
blaming the woman.
It's really hard for
Only
me.
thing,
I'm going to use your pen here. It's really hard for me to give you HIV to make it go up this pen. It's much easier for you to pour into me. Hence the reason Black men who have sex with men, or not Black men, Lord have mercy, men who have sex with men, it's easier to pass to each other because they are depositing semen into the other person. And in the rectum is definitely because it's really thin uh, mucosa, right? So you're busted, like if you're straining to have a bowel movement, you get a hemorrhoid and you can bleed, right? So that's a direct bloodline. So that's quicker access for HIV. And then for women, when we're having babies or we have a vagina and an anus, right? Even with the mouth, people say oral sex is easier. I mean, you're safer with oral sex. I said not for the person who's receiving the fluids, because if I have bleeding gums, HIV can connect to anything there's blood. Finger cut on your finger, very difficult because unless you're dipping your finger into someone with HIV and a high viral load, right? But if I'm receiving and I have bleeding gums, then HIV can connect there. So it's a lower risk. It's a much lower risk, but it is still a risk. And so the goal is to tell people at all times We have finger condoms, we have oral sex condoms, we have rectal, vaginal, we have all types of barriers to try to stop you from. I say it this way: just keep your fluids to yourself. Let's do old school kissing like they do back in the day, where you just puckered up. Everybody wants to bust slob. Keep your slob, keep your body fluids to yourself, and you can have just as much fun.
But you have reality television
Oh
shows.
my goodness, yes. And not even reality
Yeah,
TV. They've got
you,
more sex going on regular prime time now.
but also the music,
Oh, yes.
the music, more teens. Is
Teens. I'm
it
57
no no
and I like to do it, baby, stick it, baby, move it, baby, lick it, baby, suck up on that clit until that pussy got heat. I mean, I do all of that. I'm sorry. Did I just curse on the air?
yes you did.
Dang, I'm gonna
But
have to pay the thing.
that's okay.
I have to
Earl
pay.
was used to it on Monday Night Mingle. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
All right. You have people, children now,
Mhm.
kids,
Yes. Mhm.
first, second, third
Yes.
grade is exposed
Mhm.
to sex.
Yes.
And now statistics have shown
Mhm.
they are subject to oral sex.
Yes.
Why and how?
Due to the music that is definitely not generated by us, right? We have big music companies who will pay a rapper if he says, I want you to go to school, get an education, save yourself until you get married. No music company is promoting that. You say, let's go shoot up the block for girls, unless you giving me money, you can't have this sex with me. They blow that up. They blow that up, right? So that we as a people, Roman, we've got to start thinking, why won't they blow up a song that says I should go to school? I should not have sex until I'm married, right? We're not putting out that music. We can get on our phones, but for things to blow up, that comes with a big company behind it, pushing it, making sure every song we hear on the radio, right, is saying something about negative and sex, right? And so, unfortunately, the children have access to it. We used to have daytime radio, nighttime radio back in the day. I mean, I remember, you know, I don't know what song, and I want you to tell me. I want you to think about this. Are we going to have a break at some point?
No.
Oh, that's fine. But I just want you to have a think about this. What song were you jamming as a kid? Had no idea what it meant, and you shouldn't have been getting down to it. Mine was Donna Summer. I love to love you,
But that's
baby.
in a title. Love to love you?
Oh, but the whole song, when you're laying so close to me, my body sets me free. I mean, she's talking about an orgasm, right? I love to love you, baby, right? Um, the other one that we were just talking about, I said, oh my goodness, we were talking about R. Kelly. I feel like this guy, Johnny Bristol. Hang on in there, baby. Please don't let me down. Like, we're almost there. Hold on, right? So possibly is this a virgin having sex? And she's like, wait, slow down. It's hurting, whatever, right? No, you just hang on in there, right? So when we look at music differently, right? There's a bunch of stuff I shouldn't have been singing as a kid, but I didn't know what it meant. And unfortunately, these kids don't know what it means either.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I don't think they do. I don't think they all do, right? They
No,
asked the little boy.
I disagree. And the
Okay,
reason
I got you. That's fair.
and the reason that I'm disagreeing
Mhm.
is because when we was growing up, we wasn't advanced. We wasn't exposed
We didn't
to
have
a
this
lot of
phone
stuff.
that yes.
And
Children were put in another room. Go do what I say. Do. Yeah.
exactly. This generation, they're exposed to a lot. Pornhub, they're exposed
Mhm,
to
mhm,
music,
mhm.
exposed by reality television, exposed.
Absolutely.
So they're growing up too fast. And some of them in fifth grade are developing too
Oh,
fast.
absolutely. Those are hormones in the foods, right? And they are like the
And if
average
you
age.
have
People are having these
that
babies are
fifth
having
grade.
sex in sixth grade.
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's what I was getting to. You have that
absolutely.
fifth grade boy saying, "Ooh,
Yeah, yeah. If you're willing to do this, right?
look at Sharitha."
Yeah, yeah. or whomever. But let me just ask this, because I can think back, and I want us to think all the way back now when we start thinking about things. That one gym teacher who now we figured out, I wonder why she never got married. Oh, she was gay. Didn't recognize that, right? We just didn't know that. We just thought, oh, he or she didn't do that, right? I remember the girl in my neighborhood who got pregnant at 12. So when she was 24, she had a 12-year-old. She was 12. We were children. We were babies. She just started having her period, right? And it was sexual assault, right? But she still had the baby. And I remember us growing up together with your baby, right? And she moved away. So at 12, which could be sixth or seventh grade, right? Um, she was pregnant. But it was a big secret then, and girls got sent away. Nobody ever sent the person who impregnated her away.
World AIDS Day.
Mhm. Commemorates the lives lost.
The statistics have gone down.
Oh, absolutely. Do the
However,
medicine,
however,
not the behaviors. Do the medicine.
HIV has gone up. What is the number now?
So right now in the city of Chicago, yesterday, this year we're celebrating about 44 years. Um, um, 37 years in World AIDS Day that started World AIDS Day, but for the city of Chicago, 44 years. We had the first case of HIV in the city of Chicago 44 years ago, right? And so that's one of the things that we look at, and we know the numbers are going down. That we went from 800 or 900 cases, 1,800 cases early in the virus, right, to less than 600 cases. What did I say? Let's go back to COVID. Those are the 600 cases we know of, guys. And I'm still going to always push back, and I don't get in trouble for it, because it is truly my opinion, where I say those are the cases we know about now. What about the people who don't know they got infected? Because now some people are like, oh, I'm feeling lethargic. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. You might have been exposed to COVID again, right? No, that's your immune system. It could be that you're positive, right? And you could be having where your T cell counts are starting to drop, where you could end up with an AIDS diagnosis.
How would they know?
You have to get tested, guys. I do something called, y'all know me from Monday Night Mingle, right? That's where I started the conversation, where we're educating. I now have Tuesday Night Tingle. So I do something every first Tuesday in my office, at my agency, where I have the vaccine clinic come out, HIV testers come out, and now in January we'll be starting Ask the Doc with Dr. Audrey Tanksley. We'll have Ask the Doc, right? There's nothing I can do. There's nothing you can do. And you know how people are like, oh, I can tell she got HIV. No, you can't, because you used to get thin and sick, but now you can, as long as you have access to food, you know what I mean? You don't have to be thin and sick. So there's nothing you can do but to get tested, update your status, get vaccinated. When we're talking COVID, flu, RSV, shingles, we have vaccines that we can do.
Well,
Mhm,
speaking of vaccination,
mhm.
we were preaching about getting vaccinated, especially with COVID. A lot of people would say, not a lot,
Mhm.
but a very few
Yes.
would say, I didn't get no COVID shot.
Mhm. And a lot of people didn't, right? And a
And
lot of,
I'm still here. My mom didn't get no COVID shot. I'm not saying my
of
mom.
course, no,
I'm
I
just
get you.
saying,
People say I didn't get it, my
yeah,
mom didn't get it, and we're still here, right?
yeah, we're still here. And I believe what the Republican Party, not getting into politics,
Absolutely.
are saying. You're dealing with a new administration.
So you're saying you believe what they're saying, right?
I'm not saying
No,
I
no,
believe.
I'm saying the person says I believe it, right?
Mhm.
Yet the Republican president got vaccinated. So it's very difficult to
He said, according to the press, he had to get vaccinated because he's the president.
he also has to go to jail because he's the convict. But I don't see him doing that. He has to go out of office because he was voted out. He tried to fight that. So when was the last time you figured out that that president did anything he didn't want to do?
When you talk about statistics,
Mhm.
a lot of people from walks of life comes into your office.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about the strippers. that comes into your office.
Why can't we talk about the news reporter
Uh,
who's on TV every day
the
with a
stripper.
positive status?
The reason why I'm saying strippers
Mhm.
is because again, we're exposed to them. The news reporter goes to the strip club. They have the back room. You know what goes on in the back room.
What?
Stop that Monday night mingle.
Okay, so the first
That-
time a guy
that-
took me to the strip club and I saw what was going on in the back room, I was like, "Oh my god, let me bring these girls some condoms." He was like, "Move, get out of there, get away from there." I was like, "I just want to protect the people. I don't care about you getting a little extra money, but I just want to protect them." So what do you want? What about the strippers? Because they're just dancing. They're just
That's what
stripping.
you think.
They're just stripping, right? So there is a difference in dancing,
What about
serving
the masseuse that has
with a
that
happy ending.
with the happy ending?
Yeah.
What
Right.
what I'm getting at, what I'm
Mhm.
getting at,
Yeah, because you want to
you
talk
you
about
have
those things that
different
seem
different
loquacious
you
and
no
salacious.
no
And yeah,
you have these professions and people like, yeah, I go for a happy ending. Yeah,
absolutely.
I go in the back, yeah.
Absolutely. And I had
And
sex with that reporter because they're famous. Like, who wouldn't want to
or
be
that
with that
rapper
person? Yeah.
or that
Yeah.
rapper.
But they're positive.
You say to what? A rap concert. Lil Wayne has a rap concert right now. You say what?
I say they're going to be smoking too much weed for me, and I'm not going to be able to go there. But I will say people who want to be at the parties. I'm gonna go with Diddy. I'm gonna go with this one. You said Lil Wayne, but I'm gonna those parties, right? People
Well,
like to
let
say
me
I'm
let
with
me
rappers. I'm with the rapper. I hung with the crew.
but let me interrupt you.
Mhm.
I remember some of the rappers, writers. You can look it up online. Busta Rhyme had a writer, and he had said before he goes into the dressing room, it got to be 50 condoms
Mhm.
in his dressing room.
You're right.
And
Like you
I'm
can
like,
last through 50 condoms. But go ahead.
what? Some of the writers that you can look up
Oh
online
no, I know it. I believe
have
it.
condoms
Yes.
in there. And I'm like,
The writer.
but
You all
what
talk
goes
about
what goes
y'all talk about Mariah Carey saying she wants her M&Ms separated, right? There is nothing wrong with me as the artist. I'm coming into studio. You offered me water, but I could have told you in order for me to come into this studio, I need to have some tequila or some vodka. I need it because it's a clear liquid and you don't know what I have, right? And then when I'm done, I want my crew to be able to sit over there and have something to eat, and I need condoms. Now, you would think, well, you're not going to be doing anything here at Intellectual Radio, right? But it's my rider. And if my rider says that's what I want, then you have to get it because they recognize I will probably have access to somebody who wants to have sex with me. I need to have condoms. I need to have access because they're at least smart enough to protect themselves. Now, the problem with that with sex after having used drugs and alcohol is that you don't use those condoms. Like the number of condoms that get sent and people have access to them, and people say, "Oh, I have plenty of access, right? You could get condoms from me anytime. Go to MondayNightMingle.com, hit the page, hit my line, and say, hey, I need some condoms, right? We no questions asked. I make sure you get condoms and lube, right? I now make sure you get Narcan.
What is Narcan?
It is the thing to stop you from overdosing with the opioid of fentanyl because stuff is getting laced with fentanyl and people are using fentanyl and they're overdosing, right? So we have the city of Chicago Department of Public Health has vending machines where you can get some underwear, some toiletries, and Narcan, and you put it up the person's nose. We used to stab you with we had a needle to do it, right? I still have both of them, right? So yesterday for World AIDS Day, everybody in their bag in the community got Narcan. And they're like, well, why are you giving Narcan? I said, so everybody should have it in their car. So if you're driving down the street and you see someone overdosing, you can give it to somebody who's willing to use it. If you're not, you two pumps up the nose like your asthma pump or something, right? Or your was it Primatene Mist or something? You used to do the pumps up the nose when you have nasal issues, but it stops you from overdosing. and it wakes you up and counteracts fentanyl while people are overdosing and dying, right? I always say we look at all the people who had crack babies and had crack habits, right? Nobody say anything about that. These white folks start overdosing with fentanyl, and all of a sudden, these opioids, we have Narcan on every street corner, right? We have to make sure that we give it to people and people who use drugs so that their children don't overdose. One of the big psychologists, I can't think of her name, she's big child psychologist, very famous, very known. Her kid ordered drugs through like Uber Eats or something, like one of those apps like that, right? DoorDash. The person delivered fentanyl to her home. Her child overdosed in the house. Got drugs on an app. Pushed a button. They came, delivered the drugs. The kid got it. And she's the big psychologist all over the world. I can't think of her name, and I promise you, I'll text it back to you. You can just look it up, right? So I'm giving out condoms. I'm giving out Narcan. I'm giving out lube, and I'm giving out a phone number because we have to give you all this small writing with condoms, right? But we already said third and fifth grade, we're not paying attention. 5 and 6 year olds, they're not learning to read. They're learning the words. One of the babies who had made it big on TikTok or something, he did a little rap or something, and they had him on the show. He says, "Oh my God, little Stevie, what's your favorite song? Who wanna smoke with me? Who wanna smoke with me? Who wanna smoke with me?" He said it. Kid's about 3 years old. What do you know about smoking? And the parents were like, no, 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 give him another song. No, that's the song you all listen to all the way to the station, to intellectualradio.com for the drive at 5. That's what you listen to all the way over here. And then when someone asks the 3 year old or 4 year old about it, and he says it, the parents try to get embarrassed, right? Don't get embarrassed now. You're exposing your child to that music. And so I agree with you, Roman, that our children are exposed earlier. Our children are left to themselves because now we it used to be the TV that the government controlled that raised your children. Now this phone, these apps, the internet is raising your children. Those things are raising your children, and predators wait on that. I tell people all the time, they're like, "Oh no, they're just in the app." I said, "So is a predator. You think they don't know to make their name Little Bobby, right? And they befriend your child and I have done it, guys. I met a guy that I was playing Scrabble with, Words with Friends. I dated this guy for a year. We met and if you ask me, do I go on dating apps? No, but I was on a date on a word game app. Now I found out that clearly he was cheating because his vocabulary was nothing like that once I met him. Yeah, that's my line. But I met somebody. I'm 55 years old. I was 54 years old, right? And so I met somebody and trusted somebody that I met on the internet because I felt comfortable with them. We had been playing the game for almost a year. Can you imagine what a 12-year-old feels like? Like, this person calls me every day. We talk every day. We play on the game every day. Oh, I know. I feel very comfortable with this person. You've never met that person. You know what catfishing is, right? Yeah,
Yes.
where you feel like, you meet somebody, you think it's somebody. No, it's somebody totally different. So you're absolutely right that the children have access to stuff that we shouldn't. I don't know what to do about parents and make them understand that, you know, you have to do, and even though they have these quote parental guidelines on
But
your
what
phone.
about parental education?
I just want to talk to the parents.
What happened to that?
Every time you ask me and anyone asks me, can you come talk to these kids? I say, can I talk to their parents? Because I don't care what you do. I just called my girlfriend out. I'm gonna call you out, Charmaine. I just called my girlfriend out about her dog, right? Her dog's a little pudgy, little fat thing. I just got to meet the dog for the first time, right? I was like, whoa, you're feeding her everything. She goes, no, she only eats once a day. I said, baby, I'm looking at this body of this dog. They're eating more than once a day. So same thing with children. Children only wear what you buy. If you don't want your children in a low cut top, when does your 12-year-old have money to go buy her own low cut top? When does your son have money to go buy his pants that sag, right? Parents are buying these things for their children and allowing that to happen. And then when people say, "Oh, I don't have control," I say, "You allow your child to stick a fork into the socket?" "Oh, no." I said, "Then you do have control." Because if you really don't have control, your baby can go stick a fork in the socket. But if you are saying, you want them to dress more properly, use correct grammar, not be on the phone, you have to limit their time. And it does get really hard because technology is winning. There's no such thing as, if I say to you, you say to me, "Hey, Gina, I know I looked this up." And I said, "Where?" In the car catalog. Everybody has to use the internet now. That's what we have. We don't have a card catalog system anymore. We still have libraries hanging on by a thread, but for the most part, we just don't have it. So when you're talking about these parents, and when people say, "Come talk to these kids," I say, "Can I talk to the parents?" And again, guys, this is no judgment, but I mean this when I say I can have 5 baby daddies, but my brother can't have one husband in the church. "Oh, homosexuality is wrong." But I can have 5 children with 5 different men that I'm not married to, right? And when they say, "Come talk to these kids," I say, "Can I talk to the parents?" Because if I'm the eldest child of somebody who is has 4 other men over me, right? For the most part. And again, not judgment. I just want us to break it down so that, like you said, let's break it down and make it make sense. Then, as a 14-year-old, if I've got 4 younger siblings and they all have different fathers, those are all different men that have probably been exposed to me.
Let's talk about the Austin community. The highest STD rates, HIV cases, and full blown AIDS.
Okay, there's no such thing as full blown AIDS. It's
Okay,
AIDS.
AIDS. Tell us about that statistic
Well,
and break it down to us by why Austin is the
it's
highest.
not the highest in the city. Lakeview, Rogers Park still win. And
And
those
why Lakeview and Rogers Park?
just because of the number of businesses up there. I mean, the number of buildings and stuff, right? Think about Austin. They still have a lot of single family homes, but that number is really extremely high. I always say, if you give me 30 days, give me 1 month where everybody just doesn't have unprotected sex and or doesn't have sex, give me 30 days and everybody get treated, we could eradicate the gonorrhea and chlamydia. We could get you in
In the
treatment for
Austin
the cysts.
community.
Yes.
So gonorrhea is
Yes.
high in the Austin community.
Chlamydia is highest.
Community.
We got over 30,000 cases, over 30,000 cases of chlamydia in the city of Chicago, right? And about 1,800 of those are in that Austin, North Lawndale. Um, what else? What's the other one right next to
Humble Park.
Humble Park, right? In those areas, right?
So predominantly Black and Latino.
Yes, yes, yes.
My question is, what is the city plan on doing about it?
The city is trying to make sure that we have our doors open for people to come in and get tested, right? And people to get treated, not just tested, but treated. As a matter of fact, if you came into the ED and we had to do a test to see if you had gonorrhea or chlamydia, doesn't matter. We're going to do the test so we can report it to the city so we can know the numbers. We're also just going to treat you either way. That way, we're not going to chance you not coming back. We're not going to chance you not coming back, right? We're going to make sure that we treat you so that you don't pass the gonorrhea or chlamydia to the next person. Unfortunately, Roman, people will lie, and women don't we don't show symptoms as quickly as men do, right? So men come in like, "Whoa, Lord, I'm burning," right? "I'm spitting fire." And so they want to be treated immediately. But with women, we're like, "Oh, I'm having some cramping. It must be my period is coming." Or, "Oh, um, I'm having some discharge. I
Same with
just finished my period."
syphilis, right?
Yeah, syphilis again is a little more because syphilis can give you, get to your brain, right? So you'll have titers for syphilis. Once you've had it, you'll always have titers. So once you've ever had syphilis, you'll always test positive for it. But what we're looking for are the titers. Are they really high, 1 to 64, 132, or are they low, 1 to 4? That means you've just had an exposure, but it's treated. So once you've had it, you'll always have that exposure. Herpes, we talk about herpes. Oh, Usher gave her. I said, you can get herpes from your grandmother. Herpes is shingles. If you kiss your grandma with a cold, or if your grandma has a cold sore, she can give you herpes. When you're giving birth, if you have herpes, then you can pass it through the birth canal because your body's under stress, and herpes activates once you're stressed, be it with a cold, be it with a lot of stress on you, bills, things like that.
Some people say you can get herpes from going to getting a manicure and a pedicure. Is that true?
But yes, because based on how you do it, right? If you have a sore on your hand and or finger, or if you are um in the incubation period. So I always tell people, when you have a cold sore, you're kind of at the end of it, although there's still, we have to take that cold sore and swab that to confirm it's herpes, right? We know what herpes looks like. It's a cluster, and usually people don't like to say that, oh, cold sores are different from herpes. No, they're different from genital herpes, but you can get herpes on your face, on your hand, on your genitalia. You can pass herpes from your mouth. You can rub your nose and then wipe yourself, or you hold your penis and going to the bathroom or something, and then you can pass herpes to your from your mouth to your genitalia, right?
What
Yeah.
if you got to use the bathroom, you sit on the toilet, can you contract herpes there?
So not herpes, but definitely hepatitis C. HCV can last on the surface for up to 72 hours. So that's the one that can last for up to 7.
I've never seen Earl turn his nose up. So
You get 2 for flinching. You get 2 for
Can
flinching.
I ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
How do you feel about parents kissing their little kids in the mouth?
I don't like it. And so I had to say that to I've said it to my nieces and nephews. I've said
But
it to
why?
my
That's a
sister.
sign of infection.
But again, what happened? The mouth is the dirtiest part of the body. Nobody believes that. But the mouth is the dirtiest part of the body, right? Anything that's dark and moist, our mouth is dark and moist. Mine is a little dry now because I'm talking too much, right? But for the most part, that's where infection can fester. I just don't like it, Earl. I hear what you're saying. I agree with you on that. I never. So all of my nieces and nephews know I kiss everywhere but the mouth. So if you ever see me with my kids, cheek, left cheek, right cheek, and I'm also teaching them left, right, and their body parts, right?
You're married.
Mhm.
We discuss kissing.
Mhm.
You're gonna swap spit.
You can decide how you kiss in your own marriage.
Serious?
Of course,
You can't tongue kiss anymore?
well, you can if you want to. I'm just not big on exchanging bodily fluids. Now, I'm not saying I don't. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying I don't exchange bodily fluids. I'm saying I'm not big on it the way other people are. People eat after each other, drink after each other. Oh, give me some of that. I watch people smoke after each other, right?
Especially marijuana. Is that bad?
For me, it is. I just don't want to put my mouth on anything other people have. That's why I have difficulty with men who I know are with other women. Because I know you're having sex. But anyway.
What if somebody just fire up
A joint.
a joint
Yeah. And pass it around.
and just puff pass?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a passer.
Someone could have chlamydia.
No.
Someone could
So
have
we do have oral gonorrhea and chlamydia. Yes.
right.
Yes. I don't want to be. I know for I don't want to say for sure. I really do want an immunologist and or an MD to share this. I would say no, because the host can't be the surface. So hepatitis C, and that's with blood, right? That can last on a surface up to 72 hours. So that could be on a toilet seat. That could be on a counter, right? If I cut my finger and there's blood on the countertop or something. But HIV dies immediately when air hits it. And chlamydia and gonorrhea, I believe, I want to make sure that I'm saying the right thing, because you need a host, right? And based on how wet when you're passing the weed, whether or not there's enough moisture, saliva, mucosal or whatever to pass the gonorrhea, because we do have to swab the throat. very quickly, I never send my clients to any place that I won't go and get tested. So I had a new place, not a new place. I had a place where they had a new tester. So I went to update my status, and he gave me the thing for urine, and then he gave me the blood test and everything. Right? Never said a thing to me about oral chlamydia or gonorrhea. Never gave me the swab for rectal. So I said, "Hey, why didn't you give me the swab for oral and rectal?" And he looks, and he's kind of like, his face didn't say, I mean, his mouth didn't say, but his face said, "Because lady, you're over 50. You're having that kind of sex, right?" But that's really what he was saying to me. But I was saying to him, as a trainer of test counselors, right? I train people on this. I said, two for flinching. I got you on this, right? You're supposed to offer me that. I'm coming in to get tested. And I might just be thinking, oh, I'm not having sex anymore. I'm over 50. I'm having vaginal dryness. I have, this or that, right? So I may not want to, have sex, but I may just have oral sex, or I might just let somebody eat me out. You have to let me do all of those things. You have to test me while you have me in front of you. While you have me here, you have to do all of that. I chronicled it's been 10 years now, 9 years, it'll be 10 years in June. I chronicled on social media when I had my hysterectomy. Let you all see me go away for the weekend with my guy. Let you all see me go to the hospital before I went in for surgery. The doctor gave me a picture of they took out my uterus with a big tumor in it, right? Because I had fibroids and stuff, right? But the number of women who said to me, "Oh, girl, now you can have sex without worrying about getting pregnant." And I was like, do any of them know what I do? Oh, wait a minute. They only know me through Monday Night Mingle. But the reality is more women have unprotected sex once they can't get pregnant than because they don't want to be pregnant. So pregnancy is a big thing that makes them protect themselves. And that's why you have some women, who are pregnant at 50 because they stopped having periods at 45 and then all of a sudden they did again. Right? So that comes up again. So let me just, as I wrap this up, as I wrap this up, and I mean that, one of the things I want to make sure that you say, I always tell people, update your status. You didn't get it done this week or didn't get it done yesterday. You can always come to Tuesday Night Tingle every first Tuesday at Nephew's Case Management. Go to the website, nefusc.com. You can always do Tuesday Night Tingle, but update your status. It's the beginning of the new year. Get a test for everything.
How they can get in contact with you?
GinaLamar.com, GinaLamar.com, or Monday Night Mingle, all spelled correctly. GinaLamar.com, MondayNightMingle.com.
It's always a pleasure having you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for
Thanks
having
to
me.
Earl Winfrey, our executive producer. Wanda, behind the scenes, you guys have a lovely week.
Hey, Wanda.